I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we first have to add to our agenda Capital Fund number 2 under bills for payment, and then something that just came in yesterday late was a grant agreement documentation form from the state of Vermont. And we're going to put that under new business. So, with that, we'll move on to review and approve our minutes from the August 19th meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes from August 19th.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, and I'll just sign out. Right there.
I gave them to you, Joe. I put them right in front of you.
Oh, maybe I misfiled them. Okay. I brought everything over. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, over the course of the meeting, we'll maybe run across it.
Okay.
But let the record show that we have approved them. And if we find them, we'll sign them.
Tell you what, let me look.
Then we have, moving on, warrants 5 and 5P, and then Capital Fund number 2 for your review and approval. And I'll take a motion.
Move we approve warrant 5, 5P, and capital fund number 2.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, discussion. Capital Fund number 2 is taking money from the Capital Fund for paying for the painting of the community center and $11,800, and taking $3,900 to pay for a New York rake. And under warrant 5, it's payment for the pavement of last portion of Middle Road and Schoolhouse Road. That's $95,000. There were legal notices, electric bills, some gravel, repairs and supplies for the highway department. And it all added up to $102,308. So, any other discussion?
Well, just to add that I did see the painting job, and it's commendable. It's very solid all the way around. I didn't see anything left undone.
Great. Any other discussion?
Zeke, did anyone notice the note that I put on Green Mountain Power's bill about the highway garage?
Maybe not.
That if you look at the kilowatt hours used this month, or this past month, as opposed to last year, it went from, say, 400 to 900. And it's the second month in a row. I put a whole note,
In the folder on the...
Yep, on the actual bill.
So, yes.
So I didn't know if somebody wanted to look into that.
I'd say we could maybe ask the Energy Committee to look into this.
All right.
And if that's agreeable to everyone.
Yeah.
We could maybe even delegate someone to speak to the, a representative on the Energy Committee.
That would be easy for me to do.
Oh, that'd be very nice.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, everyone okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
What month was that for?
There's a note right there.
For the month of August.
August.
And July's was the same way, the same situation.
Okay.
And I mentioned it to Lee, but he couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, they'll love to look into that.
Okay.
Great. Good. Thank you for catching up. All right.
It's up by, looks like 50% from 606 kilowatt hours to 981.
Good, well, we'll get a report back from them.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Okay. We have no visitors right now, so we'll move on to actually Sam Farwell, but I don't see Sam Farwell in the audience either. So let's move on. We'll come back when he does show up. Just any thoughts, comments about our road tour that we took last week?
I'm glad we did it. I mean, it was a good chance to spend some time with Lee and see what's involved in roads and dealing with erosion and roads that are about to fall off a bank and that sort of thing. So
It was very helpful for me. I mean, just learning about the different classes of road and what that means for the town. And, I continue to be impressed with Lee's knowledge of taking care of the roads. Really, there's a lot to know.
and also his demeanor in dealing with folks that are complaining.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very professional, I
Yep.
thought. Very.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have been critical. He was not.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. We missed it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's kind of increasing maturity on Lee's part. I understand that he turned 50 last week.
Seriously? Oh my God.
Yeah.
People
That's
pass
on the
that
camera now.
Right, so we did go up on Fish Road, and that's a section Lee wants to review soon, that it's, what is it, Class 4, and it's really being taken care of as though it were Class 3. And we could get a little reimbursement from the state if we were to formally change it to Class 3, which is really what it actually is. So we'll hear more from Lee on that. And but I thought it was a good tour, and
Thanks for letting us use your van.
yeah, pleasure. I like being in the driver's seat, you know.
We've noticed.
We're happy.
So, but I think it would be good to do again next year, because there were a lot of roads we didn't. We could have gone on.
Right, that's true. The thing that I personally would still like to do is see the gravel pits.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with them. And also Lee wanted to, but we didn't have the time to go up to the garage, and he wanted to show us that and kind of, get a sense of, so I'd like to do that.
Well, last year Lee was kind enough to just meet with me at the gravel pit individually and give me the lowdown. So
Yeah,
that's
so
possible.
maybe I'll do that separately. Yeah. Good.
Okay. So, under correspondence for information, is there anything there that you want to discuss? There is the letter from Sigurd Pickering to Jason Cooper, and I think the response, correspondence from Alex Wilson. And so they may seem to me as though they may try to get together and, the residents and Friends of the West River Trail representatives have a meeting at some point. So we may hear more about that.
So the one just above that is that I was a little confused that why we would get something from Underhill Center. Did it go to all towns
I
in
think
Vermont?
so. Yes, occasionally we'll get letters from maybe other select boards or citizen groups, and they are advocating for,
One thing or another, and so they send it to all select boards in
Yeah.
Vermont. So that's why we got that.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And that might be something we could forward on to the planning commission, because it seemed to be more along their purview than ours. So if we can remember to do that.
I can do that.
Okay. And, all right, there's going to be on the 15th a DRB hearing on a sign replacement for here, where we are right now. And an informal gathering, I guess, of the abutters of the Renault gravel pit to talk about how things are going on over there. So.
And what's this preparing for town meeting seminar?
That was a
that's the
VLCT
thing.
workshop that
Okay.
is being held.
I see.
So, let's see, Sam Farwell has joined us, and wants to talk about the municipal planning grant application. So,
May I approach the bench?
yes, you may approach.
Hello.
Hi, Sam.
Have you seen the resolution that
Yes, we have. I'm sure it's there someplace.
So,
It's under business and public comment.
the resolution doesn't give much information.
I'm going to take a gamble and say it's this one with the sign here.
Saying
Yes.
resolution. As I said in the email I sent to the select board, it seems unusually soon to be talking about updating our town plan, but because it was a town plan update that you adopted in February 2014. However, because that was a really single issue update to the town plan, everything else other than the mapping of the corridors is dating from 2010. So Wyndham Regional recommended that in their comments that came along with their approval of the plan, that we move into updating it much sooner than the typical 5 years, or the statutory 5 years from the adoption date. And I feel that that's very appropriate. I mean, we have finished the work on the zoning update for now, and
Maybe we could decide to send it back.
that's right. So there may be more work, but we're enjoying a little bit of a lull right now. But come 2016, somewhere along in the winter there, it seems to me appropriate to start that process, and it may be maybe a couple of years to complete the update. There's the nice thing is that we don't have to rush, because there's no looming deadline of having an expired plan. So that's why applying for the grant this year. So the deadline is September 30th, and the funds will be available in January if we get the grant. That's why now. As far as the update, we haven't really started to think about what we want to tackle in the update. We know that we will be required to add a flood resilience section.
Flood
resilience is what they call it. It's something that they added. The state added that requirement for all town plans adopted after some date, which we just barely got in before with the 2014 update. So we'll have to do that. It may be relatively boilerplate because Wyndham Regional has helped write that section for just about every other town now in Wyndham County. So that may not be in itself a big deal. However, because it's required and because it's one of the elements that the state is looking to fund, I will certainly write that up in our application that we need to do this in the hopes that that will help us get the money. There could be, any number of other parts of the plan that we would want to look at. Another one that might be relatively routine is simply updating our census data, because the 2010 plan has 2000 census data, so we now have the data from 2010 census that we can, but again, that may be relatively routine. As the Planning Commission discusses it, we may want to delve into some of the chapters more, and it would be wonderful to get direction or input or suggestions from the select board. The town plan is full of all kinds of goals and policy and action steps, and each one has an associated group or committee, a lot of times that being the select board. So it's full of action steps for the select board to take, and so it might be nice if those were actually action steps that you guys wanted to take. In other words, the more input that you put into the town plan update, the more useful it is to you as far as running the town and making it a relevant document. I mean, I think a lot of towns, and sometimes Dummerston included, go through the motions of keeping an updated town plan because they need to have it in order to have zoning, which they want to have. But really, other than that, it's just a headache. It's just they need to meet the statutory requirements, but they don't actually use it very much. Mm-hmm. So, we can do that, but it's an opportunity to have a guiding document. And you have your goals meeting every year to figure out what you want to do that year. Well, it could all be a referenced in here. So that's my pitch. That's my invitation.
Okay, and what do you need us to do?
So this is part of the application process. The state has their whole grant application. It's an online application, and one of the elements of the application is a resolution from the select board saying we essentially authorize the town to use these funds, since only the select board can do that. Can
authorize the funds from the grant that you might get.
Right. No, I mean, we don't need to authorize. I don't think we need to have your authority to accept the funds, but then we're going to accept them and turn around and spend them, and that's your job. So the state needs to know that you are willing to spend them with your authority.
And what amount are the funds that you're applying for? It's not on the document.
Right, it says 8,000 or up to 15,000 with if it's with matching funds. And we certainly will not apply for more than 8,000, because that would involve us asking you to come up with matching funds. So typically we would just ask for as much as we could possibly get, which would be 8,000. Mm-hmm. However, we do have to submit a work plan and budget with the application. And it may be that we really can't justify 8,000 if we're just asking for money for flood resilience in the town plan update, in which case, we would ask for something less based on what we think the expenses will be. I would like to, personally, I'd like to make it an ambitious town plan update. I think there's interest since the 2010 plan was adopted in looking at parts that were, maybe not everybody was happy with. That may not be true. It may be that since then people just want to put it all behind them. So I would like to write the application rather broadly, talk about flood resilience, but also talk about some other elements that we might look into. And unfortunately, I haven't thought about that in too much detail. and a lot of it is guided by what the state in their description of the grant application say they're looking for. So I may tailor it to sound like just what they're looking for. For example, one of the things that the Planning Commission is researching right now in a, we're taking our time, we're not in any hurry, but we're looking into something called variable lot size provisions in the bylaw. I think I mentioned them at the joint boards meeting, and I could talk about it more if you're interested and if we have time right now. But there are elements of that might sound attractive or interesting in an application. So I might write that up.
We have to run a proposal about, or a presentation about that at one point. Was that to the select board or just to the planning commission?
That was the planning commission.
Okay,
Yeah.
I remember sitting through a very long presentation.
Yes, yeah, and it was nice. It didn't get down to the nitty gritty. The fact is that provision in zoning has never been done in Vermont.
Oh, I thought there was one town that tried it. They did it.
No, not yet. Not that we know of. And I just discovered one town in North Carolina. That's county actually, that has that provision.
There also, Sam, seems to be a little interest at the state level, and I do have a couple letters, people that are starting to address Act 250 and are deciding it's too restricted and needs to be looked at. And I don't know if that's anything that could be worked into your grant, but you know, they're finding this is why businesses are leaving Vermont.
Right.
We don't have employment for our youth, and maybe strip development is what we need to keep our commercial businesses all segregated from rural part of the community. So I don't know that that's anything that could be in there, but it does look, and this is coming from some significant people at the state, so maybe they are going to look at Act 250 and try to make. And the other problem is Act 250 seems to be regulated differently in each section of the state too.
I've heard that you don't know what you're going to get when you make your application.
We're very restricted, and apparently
more in this corner.
Yeah. Well, but I don't know if that's part of the grant process, but that's something that I would think the planning commission would want to keep on top of.
Well, it certainly is. The town plan is what plays a part in the Act 250 process. So what we write under, for example, what is the chapter called? Commerce and Industry. You know, we could look into the language there. We could also look into the language about, you know, for example, strip development, and maybe defining that rather than just saying strip development, defining what we actually mean. Right. So
I'm just thinking of ideas for your grant. I know again they're going to stipulate what you can get the money for, but there's a broad horizon of things that seem to be happening within the state.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we can. That's interesting. How I might work that into the application.
Well, it would all depend on what the criteria was.
Yeah.
There does seem to be a little more interest at the state in making it a little easier for businesses. To try to work in Vermont.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good. I'll file that.
There seemed to be a lot of interest, and we might hear it again at our hearing tonight. But seemed like there was a desire to protect, have some way of protecting or enhancing agricultural land, but leaving the owners of that land, you know, not stripping them of their rights as property owners. So, you know, preserving their right to, you know, own and enjoy their land, and so.
Yeah, there's existing language in the plan, and it may be that we want to develop it, tweak that language.
It might be interesting to see how Westminster makes out, because they're apparently not very happy with their ag overlays, and it'd be kind of interesting to see how that discussion progresses in terms of our town.
I think it might be a really, you know, if you let that percolate, that we will be doing this in the winter or early spring. And so, you know, that we might have more of this discussion about what we actually want to do with the town plan that's not geared at the application, but what we actually want to look at.
I'm surprised after 6 years they're in such a hurry to delve back here. Wasn't it 6 years we worked on?
I was thinking, you know, elected officials and town employees are eligible for that therapy. And it's just a shame that appointed officials aren't. Because why on earth would you want, you know, I'm just thinking, why on earth are they doing this again?
I would think they want a couple more years to digest the last
a little break or something.
I think at our meeting last night, everyone was kind of wondering how that resolution got passed in July, to be honest with you. I think I'm the only one who's got any interest at all right at the moment.
Yeah.
But they'll come around.
Okay. So would you like us a motion to approve this?
I move that we allow Sam to apply to the state for a grant
Okay.
for work on town plan.
I will second it.
Okay, discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
That's great news.
great. Okay, well, where do we sign? We'll figure that, oh, sign here. That's probably,
Yeah, there is, right, the whole select board signs,
Yes.
and there are 2 select board members that can be, that put their names in to be,
Aren't they approving officials or something like that?
it's an appropriate municipal official or something like that, so someone who would,
I'm gonna swap out this chair.
I guess
I decided to lean.
okay.
I feel like I'm.
the select board signs here. And then you guys can decide who wants to be a municipal official.
Okay,
What is a municipal official?
well, I know what a municipal official is, but what are you
It's
asking?
usually the chair of the select board.
What?
Usually the chair of the select board.
Okay, and one other, okay.
Yeah, it has to be 2.
Right.
And it doesn't,
I'd be happy to be the second.
Okay.
Okay,
You know, we could probably have 3. You know, I don't want anyone to go.
No, I served my papers on the plan.
so it's a designation to serve as the municipal/authorizing official for the grants management online system, Intelligrants,
yeah.
and to execute the grant agreement and other such documents as may be necessary to secure these funds.
To secure the
Just want a couple signers.
Right, so you probably sign the application when it's submitted, and you, if there's some, it may be that you sign the, do they have to sign the
We do not.
request for funds when you send in the invoices? Yeah, so we will get, probably, most of the monies will be used to pay invoices from Wyndham Regional, as we will be using their services. That's what a lot of this money will be used for. And they will send an invoice, and Lori will submit that to the state for reimbursement. And I guess that there's a form to be signed. The other thing that I would like to get monies to help us with is just simply to pay, you know, all the printing costs that come with, if you really want to have public involvement, you gotta let them know, and it costs money to do that. Might be a townwide mailing, and there are also requirements like certified mails to other towns. So it adds up to beyond what we typically budget for the planning commission. So it has to get that help. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for your effort. And thinking ahead.
That's well, we are the planning commission.
Okay, good. Thanks very much, Sam. And thank you to the other members of the planning commission.
So Sam, you need to sign this as well.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Give
So,
it to Lori.
let's see, we still have no visitors, so we'll go back. Where were we? Oh, correspondence for discussion and/or action. Anyone want to address the letters, emails from Dick Burkus regarding traffic control and signage on East West Road?
No, but I've actually had a couple people tell me they think the speed limit should be raised on that road. Oh my God, I told them I don't think they better make that public, but, so they can have momentum to make the hill.
Keep it under wraps.
So I'm sure Dick doesn't want to hear that, but,
Well, I was just wondering what common definition of spot surveillance is. Does that mean a noticeable spot where the sheriff will sit and so people can see the enforcement? Is that what he's talking about?
I'm not sure directly. I do know that some of the problem is they don't, I mean, I think Dick would like them to, no, I shouldn't speak for Dick, but he'd be happy if they sat right in his driveway, for instance. And they don't like to sit in individuals' driveways because there could be retaliation from somebody that got stopped, blaming it on the landowner. So I think they like to find places where they can sit where it's not, and I don't know if that's what he's talking about. We're trying to find somewhere where they can sit in that section. I know he's offered his driveway several times, but they prefer not to do that, so.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what you meant by spot, whether it just means, well, stop here for a while, you know, that's one spot, and then go down the road another spot, but...
I mean, the problem is, we only have $9,600 or whatever budgeted, and, you know, they have to cover the whole town, and I tried to infer that to my note to Dick, but, you know, there's everywhere. They were on Route 5 the other day, so...
So I see the tapes are gone, so if the board wants, I could call Matt Mann and just see if he's done. When we discussed this before, we talked about having Matt Mann give us recommendations for that stretch.
Right.
I could just check in and see how he's coming along, when he thinks he might be ready to make some, you know, come and...
I think that would be a good thing to do for you to do.
Okay. Is that
Sounds good.
everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Then I shall do that. And
We've spoken, I think, in the past about, doesn't the sheriff's department have mobile devices that, you know, tell you what your speed is?
Yeah. They've set it down by the school before, and
Could we set it over here?
a good question for our liaison to the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
you couldn't have asked me that last week. Yeah, okay, I will ask them. I'm sure they'd be glad to set it up wherever we ask them to set it up.
Well, just in response to, you know, Dick's.
I would like to see us just wait and see what the regional has for, you know, rather than us knee-jerk operations here, wait and see what they say, and we're gonna talk about signage at that point, speed at that point, and
That's fine.
Well, there was another question, maybe that's why we didn't piggyback on that, about the 2 hours that were reported in July.
Right, let's see, that's a little
That's
further
coming out.
down.
That's further down. Oh, sorry.
I'm happy to respond to that now.
We're jumping all over the place.
Yes, I thought it was coming up later.
Yeah,
Oh, I see it.
it's next.
So in my discussion with them is that July, they had 3 deputies on vacation. And Keith himself was out of town for 3 weeks, and another deputy, Mark, was on his military required time. So they were short several people that month. And that's why we didn't get very much coverage. They since have gotten a grant, and so he thought, now I talked with Mark, not Keith, because Mark handles the contracts, and they thought August was going to be probably quite a few more hours because of the grant that they got, and so they were spending some of that grant time in Dummerston on top of what we were budgeted, and then September, they thought it was important to spend time on the school bus routes, to remind people to slow down for the school bus, so they kind of thought September would bounce back too. And we talked about the contract. I mean, basically the contract is a yearly contract. Yeah, it averages out 18 hours, but it's like contracts that my business has with people. Some months, you might go 2 or 3 months where you're under the monthly payment, and then you might have a time when you're significantly over the monthly payment, and that's kind of how a yearly contract would work. And I know it budgets out to 18 hours, and he bills us that as our monthly payment. But I mean, we kind of have to look at it over the year. And I know Lewis used to hate that they would do 30 hours one month and 2 another, but I do think they had legitimate concerns for July when they were very short of personnel. I believe he also, and I don't remember this exactly, but I think he said that one person had left the department too. So he thought that the time would recoup pretty well in August, and we were going to get more hours because of the grant. And then September, I know they've already been down by the school sitting, because they felt it was a good time to remind people with the kids out. So that was the answer I received.
Okay, thanks.
And they're great, I'll tell you, they are great about, I mean, I call, leave a message, and I mean, they try my house phone, they try my cell phone, they email me. I mean, they really make an effort to try to get back, and I'm not particularly easy to catch some days. So I got to give Mark particularly a kudos, because he's pretty persistent trying to get back to me.
Another sheriff-related thing. Newfane terminated their contract with the sheriff department and went to, they're contracting now with the state police. And there was a short article about that, and maybe not everyone's happy with it, and they were talking about maybe using some of these electronic boxes to monitor, but purchasing them. So it would be interesting to just keep tabs on how they're doing with switching over to the state police and how that's working for them.
Is the concern they're getting less hours as a result?
Yes. Yeah. And there's a question from the audience.
I just want to say those boxes.
And you are?
You know who I am, Jody Norando. I know the cameras. Those boxes really work. I've seen them lately down in Brattleboro on Putney Road, and they just blink at you, and you're going, oh, I'm going over the speed limit. And I think that would be a good thing to have, and we can move them around. They're not very big. They're just these little things. I don't know whether you've seen them or not.
No.
And I don't know where they've been up in West Brattleboro, and they've been on Putney Road going both directions. I don't know where they are right now, but they've got the little blue light that just blinks at you.
Yeah, and all around the sign.
Oh, I haven't seen the one all around the sign.
Yeah, all around the sign, and it's blinking at you like that. And it's the fact that they're new, you know, the fact that it's a different way of, you know, monitoring speed is helpful as well. But I agree, they look pretty simple, and so Newfane is purchasing those?
No, they're talking, one of the select board members was suggesting they do that. And another select board member was saying, well, we'll have to, you know, think about that when we go into our budget season. So. So, any other thoughts along this line? Getting back to, so regarding Dick Burkus' letters, we're going to see where Matt Mann is in his process, and then we'll have some idea at our next meeting when we might have some information.
And be able to discuss it more in depth. You know?
Yeah. So going on to unfinished business. We have any goals updates other than crossing off our road tour? Has it been on our goals list? It's like our select board bucket list. Personnel policy, we're going to take care of. We're going to look at again on the 30th.
Right, and I'll send people a review of what we discussed, and there was a little homework to do, which will be done by then, and
Okay, great. Good. Oh, and then that emergency management meeting that was held in Jamaica, Vermont on the 13th of August. Don Hubbard and I went there. There were representatives from most of the towns around. And it was another one of those meetings where they cram about 20 minutes of really good information into a 2-hour meeting. But of that 20 minutes, probably what was most useful was that Wyndham Regional Commission can provide, they have a person who's working with towns on emergency management. And she could be a good resource for the town as we go into emergency management without the Vermont Yankee money in the future. And then the other towns outside of the evacuation zone. Just looking at some of their sample budgets, they vary quite a bit. Most of the towns at least provide a mileage stipend for their emergency management director. And that may be their entire emergency management budget. Others, like Jamaica, they have a budget of $5,000 for emergency management. And that was, of course, in response to the post-Irene flood. So we can get a couple, as we get into our budget season, we can get a couple of these sample budgets. And I think Don Hubbard's going to be talking with other towns around and seeing what they do, so we can have a sense of how other people have been running their emergency management portion of their town without DUI money. So that's mine. Sorry.
good, well, thanks for going.
Yeah. Okay, let's see, going on down. There's, under new business, we had a letter about the trash on the corner of Route 5 and Johnson's Corner. If you've been going that way, you might see there's
Pretty good living room set sitting in there.
yeah,
Seems to grow quite often than what's there.
yeah, and then it disappears, and then it starts growing again. This is a little section of dirt on Route 5 and Johnson's Corner where people sometimes will park a car to sell or sometimes have a yard sale. But lately, people have been putting couches, televisions, things like that, and putting a free sign on. And I don't, so it kind of seems like it may be, given the quality of some of these appliances and furniture, that it may just be a dumping area. The town owns a portion of that land, and the state's right-of-way for Route 5 is most of that land. So this was brought to Lee's attention, and he talked with someone from the state garage about dealing with this, and they're going to try to work together and come up with a solution.
Solution like a big rock or something that they would put there?
Big rock, that's a great idea. Do you want to be on a committee to?
Probably put guardrails all the way around it or something. It's a pretty good sized area.
Yeah, it is.
Building stuff
We
on.
could.
There must be 6 or 7 pieces of furniture there.
Wow.
You know.
That might work better than a sign then of no dumping for
We
town.
could turn it into, what about a park and ride?
Well, I'm not having much trouble getting the other one. I much luck getting the other one open. So.
What about a camera?
That was my thought. Yeah.
So
But you'd have to put a sign there that says no more debris first.
Yeah. So if you have any suggestions for Lee, you could get in touch with him, and he'll be talking this over with his state counterpart down at their garage.
It seems to have been worse this year than in
Yeah.
the past.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seemed before, you know, leftovers from a tag sale once in a while, but now
And
it's,
then somebody can come back and pick them up, but I don't know that these things get picked up now lately.
yeah, or I don't know if the state's picking them up.
Yeah.
So that's the information we have about that.
Just before the exit 4.
On the left.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Not really on the agenda, but since we have some time, there was some water damage at the community center, and it seems as though it might be appropriate. They could, maybe Lori could check with VLCT about an insurance adjuster coming and taking a look.
What was the water damage caused by?
It was caused by some leaky plumbing from one of the bathrooms, and it affected a room that's used for storage by the library. So, and you know something about that?
Well, I saw it. The ceiling of that room has been removed, and the sewer line has been repaired, so there are costs for
Expenses,
that.
yeah, okay.
So a claim might be appropriate if insurance would allow.
Yeah. Okay. So Lori's going to look into that?
Yeah, probably ask them if they're gonna require bids too. That might be,
Even though the work's already been done.
oh, really?
That's what
Generally,
Doug
insurance
said.
wants to look first.
I know.
Yeah.
And
Not all of it.
then get bids.
The ceiling hasn't been done, the pipe has been repaired, so the leak is stopped.
Always argues.
But the ceiling of the room is still unfinished.
Did anybody take photos?
I don't know, that could be done.
I mean, before it was fixed.
Just a second, if she argues that there was a mold issue, you could make an argument to the insurance company that the work had to get done immediately, and usually they'll accept that. I've had them accept that argument for me when I had to cut a tree down before Katrina. Or not Katrina,
Irene.
right.
Okay. All right, so we'll hear more about that. Let me see, I have so many notes here.
The grant agreement document.
Yes, the grant agreement document. Okay, so the state is requiring that, I'm going to let Lori Fichette explain what the state is asking us to do now.
Okay, this is the first year that the state they've created a new grant program, which is the funding from current use, the pilot program, reappraisal fund monies, any of the monies that are paid directly to the town from the state to reimburse us. They've always just sent us the checks. Now they've changed it to a grant program where we have to apply for it. And so they're asking for someone to be designated as the municipal official who can submit these grants. We just received notification of it yesterday. The deadline is the 15th, which is 2 weeks from yesterday. And the select board doesn't meet again until the 16th. So that's why I asked Zeke to put it on tonight's agenda.
And so we just need to designate the point person.
Okay, and does it make sense for you to be the point person?
It does.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
I'll move Lori be the point person.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
You have an unanimous endorsement from the board. All right, so taking care of that. Under other business, there's a Wyndham Solid Waste meeting of their directors on the 10th of this month. And it's just to, they are charged with helping towns be in compliance with the new recycling law. So I don't think it's a big deal. If you have nothing to do and want to take in a meeting at the Wyndham Solid Waste, you'd be welcome there, but on September 8th, there's a meeting upstairs in the town office, in the emergency management office. And it's to go over a new program called Vermont Alert. And this is a cell phone, email notification system that's the newest emergency contact information. And apparently it's could be very effective and very useful for towns if they, instead of notifying the whole town, or they can easily contact, just the residents along one road or a portion of a road or something. So that's going to be September 8th at 7 p.m. So anyone that was able to go upstairs, hot dogs and beer, I don't know, I'm sure.
What time was the September 10th meeting there at Solid Waste?
I'm not sure exactly what time.
Oh,
it's in one of these folders.
Under new business.
Under new business?
I'll find it.
Okay, great. I think they usually start around 7 or so.
Not that I was going to go, I just, if somebody asked me, I wanted to be able to tell them what time to be there.
No, it looks good for you to be.
If nobody goes to the
Vermont
emergency
Alert?
management one, can we be sure to get a report?
Yes,
To
we
the
can.
select board? I mean, in
Sure.
any case.
Sure.
It'd be good to have a,
To know what's going on.
I didn't see a new business.
Right. And
I saw unfinished business.
last but not least on our other business, we need someone to write a views article. The deadline is looming.
I thought Steve was recommended as the,
Well,
Yeah, on the roads tour, I know his,
on the roads tour, he was unanimously selected as the.
It'll be a short article, because I'm
well,
a bit busy.
brevity is its own reward.
How long do I have to write it? How long does Maria have to write it?
Oh, let's see.
I mean, tell me what a views article, what the expectation is.
The expectation is to just give residents a sense of what's going on with their select board.
I mean, do I have 2 or 3 days at least?
Yes, 2 or 3 days. I'm sure we could,
I think it's September 22nd, as I recall, is
Yeah.
the deadline.
weeks. You can put it off for a couple of weeks.
Okay, yep.
I just wanted to comment that Goodbande's article got a lot of comments. They liked
Sure
it.
did.
Oh, positive comments, all
Yes.
good.
Good read.
Definitely had a sense of.
Very clever.
So, if there's no other business, we're going to recess and reconvene for a public hearing that will start promptly at 7.
I just wanted to mention on, upcoming agendas, I'm going to be missing the next meeting. I think, are you as well?
I am also.
Okay, I'll miss the meeting on the 16th, so I just want to be sure
2
we
people
will have
will
a
be-
quorum.
Okay. My dance card's open.
Steve, Goodbande, Mayor.
So as long
I
as
don't
you
know
have
that far
3,
ahead.
As far as I know.
but if one more person isn't there, then you don't have a quorum.
Right.
Okay.
I've only missed 1 meeting in 4 years or 5 years. Probably be here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think,
Maybe I missed 2.
I just thought I would bring it up in that
Yes,
we're
thank
too
you.
short. Yep.
sure. Okay, shall we recess?
Will we recess?
All of those in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right, got a couple minutes to go out for. This is a public hearing to get your comments on the zoning bylaw revision. And as a public hearing, we're here to hear your comments, take whatever you've written. It's not an information session and it's not a back and forth. We're If we do a good job, we'll sit here and take notes and listen to you, and then use your comments when we deliberate about approving or what to do next with this proposed bylaw revision. So, with that, the ground rules are, if you'd like to speak, you raise your hand or catch my attention and I'll recognize you and you'll have a chance to speak. We'll let everyone who wants to have a chance to speak before we go back. It's not a free-for-all discussion, and once we go around, have another opportunity to speak. We'll close the hearing at some point, and then we're going to have some time to talk about it and possibly take action on it this evening or decide what we'll do with it. So with that, everybody know the members of the select board? Want to go around and introduce?
Oh, sure. I'm Guru Dharam Khalsa.
I'm Joe Cook.
I'm Zeke Goodbande.
Geraldine Wilson.
Steve Glabach.
And, oh, okay, I'm going to have to start all over. I forgot to turn this on. But when you speak, if you can introduce yourself, because we may know you, but the tape recorder does not. So with that, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone who would like to address the board? Yes.
Jody Normando. I don't know, I can't remember who's gotten on the board when, but I do have a letter here that I wrote to the members of the Planning Commission, and in September 29th, 2013. What I want to say tonight, so if anybody doesn't have this, I'll pass it on. What I wanted to say tonight is that I am extremely disappointed in that the Planning Commission and the town have not taken this last opportunity to really do a super job as far as the zoning and the zoning map is concerned. We had an opportunity to be able to have our commercial activity and our agricultural land hand in hand and do it in a manner that would not affect the Route 5 or Route 30, but particularly the Route 5 corridor. So many people in Dummerston do not want Dummerston to look like Putney Road and Brattleboro. And if you look at this map here, even though there are some spots, the spots that are mainly not rural commercial are conserved lands or were asked by the couple of people to keep their land in rural or something else. Everything else on Route 5 is pretty much rural commercial. It is also a scenic byway, and I do hope that before it gets ruined and looks like New Jersey, Connecticut, Putney Road, Brattleboro, that we can have an opportunity to do something. That's my first comment about Route 5 and the commercial things. The second comment is one that I've been trying to fight since you started this, is the agricultural land. Dummerston on Route 5 has the best agricultural land in the state of Vermont. And to not recognize that and put it aside, looking at what's happening today with the water shortages all across the country, with the wild weathers all across the country, with these fires, with everything else, we're pretty darn lucky to live here. And if we don't conserve that agricultural land to help feed us down the road, I think we're going to be very, very sorry. I tried to even get, at one of the hearings, to just put an agricultural overlay over it so that it would get a little bit extra attention if something came up. I know a lot of the Planning Commission members stated in their hearings and their meetings that, oh, well, the DRB is going to take care of it. Well, the DRB can't take care of it if there's not some bylaws or something to go on to take care of it. Oops, Spock just went right out of my head. You know, it's going to come, we're going to get something. I was just reading in the paper today where Wilmington was fussing over Dunkin' Donuts. Well, they've come back and they've redesigned it so that it looks more like the Wilmington Village or whatever. There are things we can do. Our town plan was a wonderful town plan. And none of this, I shouldn't say none of it, but a lot of this, the Route 5 and the agriculture, do not follow the town plan. And in this letter that I had written back 2 years ago, I state where it does not follow the town plan. And I think that's a real shame. And I'm not going to be here forever, but I'd like to have Dummerston looking nice for my children and my grandchildren, and I think most of us do. So I'm hoping that if you won't make any changes now, I'm hoping you will make some changes. But if you don't make any changes, I'm hoping that you will instruct the Planning Commission to take a really good look and plan, not just zone, but plan for the future, so that we don't get stuck in what Brattleboro, Putney Road is like. And that's basically what I've been saying since the beginning of this. I figured I'd come tonight and have my final say in this. It may not be the final say, but those are two very, very important issues, and they need to follow the town plan. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
I second what Jody said, and I also...
You are?
Ines McGillian.
Thank you.
So I second what Jody said, and also just want to point out that the town plan is actually fairly weak in its description of how it wants to develop commercially. And down the road, there could be individualized challenges to things that come up on Putney Road based on the lack of basis in the town plan for this kind of development. And that's something that is to be avoided, I think. But that is still an option, and perhaps another option is design review going down the road. I think it's something that the select board should consider and perhaps ask the Planning Commission to look into that. And also perhaps an agricultural overlay.
Okay, thank you. Yes?
My name is Catherine Schroeder, and I'd like to third what Jody said, if that is possible. I think that the Route 5 corridor, I'd like to see that revisited. I couldn't agree more that it is short-sighted to serve needs now and not long-term. Those soils are the best soils in the state of Vermont, and they're vulnerable to being paved over. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
I'm Barry Waxman. I just have a question on the productive lands area. Does that provide some of the protection that we're seeking? And I agree with these ladies behind me with regard to not commercial development on those productive lands. I mean, there are conditional uses I see, but mainly it's not the kind of thing that happened on Putney Road in Brattleboro. So maybe we could enlarge the productive lands, maybe even redefine it a little narrower so that there are things that wouldn't produce a Putney Road development. As another approach to getting the agricultural lands protected.
Okay, has anyone else like to speak who hasn't spoken before? Okay, then we'll go to the second round. Yes.
Jody Normando. One of the things that I forgot to say earlier is, for example, down here by Houghton Road and Middle Road on Route 5, there's plenty of land that could be on the highway, could be kept in where the agricultural lands are good, could be kept from RC. Whereas in back of it, like what you could do down at the end of Schoolhouse Road, you know, down there where the old gravel pit is, where you could have good commercial, or back here in the RC back here, you could have good spot for commercial back there without having it on the highway. And I know that some of the landowners wanted it put in RC, but you could put a little bit of theirs on the highway in agricultural, and then then they could have the whole rest of it as RC. So there are things that could be creatively done to protect the scenic byway and to protect the ag lands and still have your rural commercial.
When you say highway, do you mean 91 or are you referring to?
I'm talking about Route 5.
Okay.
That's the scenic byway right here, Route 5. But if you can see between Route 5 and 91, there's an awful lot of red there that's nowhere near Route 5 that could have access for rural commercial and not bother the rest of it.
Can I offer one more comment as well, just to follow up on what Jody said?
Yes, you are.
That,
you are.
In Mass McGillian, as I was before. The tape recorder may not recognize you. The other issue that I know other residents have written in about this, and the town plan, one of its goals is to encourage residential housing development. And I thought it was curious that this zoning bylaw actually takes pockets of residential areas along Route 5 out of residential and puts them into commercial. So a development like, I think, what was it called, Poplar Commons, which used to be residential, is now commercial. And that seemed a little bit...
It was rural commercial before.
Oh, it was rural commercial before,
yes.
Not residential, my mistake. But it would seem to make sense to make that residential since that's its current existing use. And it would be incompatible with those homes to have a neighboring home sold to a commercial enterprise. So, yeah.
Anyone? All right. You are?
My name is Sam Farwell.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak as chair of the Planning Commission for the proposed update, not representing my private citizen opinions, but in the official capacity. I just want to speak without. I hear, people's opinions articulated very well, and I don't want to belittle them at all. I just want to speak for the process that we went through to get to this point, and just speak for the record that we certainly heard a lot of opposing opinions throughout the process, both in the town plan update that addressed the corridors and in the zoning update that addressed the corridors as well as many other issues. It was very hard for the Planning Commission to resolve all the different opinions that we heard, and what I want to impress on the Select Board in recommending that they adopt this draft is that some of the things that have just been brought up, and many others, we will be looking into next year when we begin to update the town plan. Things like agricultural overlay, for example. The expressed desire to look at the corridors again, we probably have a lot of people not only rolling over in their graves, but having trouble sleeping at night, because that's the last thing they want. But we inevitably will be looking at zoning issues again when we update the zoning again. And I think that the process we went through was not perfect, but quite comprehensive, and that we did make changes. We do not have the same, even in Route 5, we do not have the same zoning map. And we don't have a large format of existing zoning to compare it to. The changes may seem like nowhere near enough to some people, and they may seem like an outrage to others. But I think small changes can be very significant, and moving slowly may be a better idea than doing everything that some think is necessary right away. So I think that's okay to make incremental changes. And some people think that this will never happen again because it took 40 years for us to change the zoning map. But until I'm exhausted, I guess, as chair of the planning commission, I'm ready to do it again as soon as we update the town plan. So those are my comments.
Question: how old is the existing town plan?
2010.
Or 14.
Oh, yeah.
2 years,
Oh, yeah.
or a year and a half?
Our current town plan was adopted in 2014, and we're looking to update it sooner.
Aren't you supposed to do it every 5 years or something?
Correct, correct. And we are filling out an application right now to get grant money to work on the update this winter.
Yeah, and it was adopted in 2014, but it gets worked on for many years before that, so the content of it, some of it goes back to 2010. So, you know, the content in the town plan is older than 2014.
Yeah.
I guess that's the point I wanted to make.
Your husband Alex and I were on the planning commission and worked on the town plan back in the 90s. And we thought we had a great town plan, and when it was presented, there were people who stood up, some of whom I understand no longer live here, who were just outraged that their property didn't have exactly what they wanted. And, you know, I understand where he's coming from, because it's very personal to the people who live here.
So do we have any other comments before I close this public hearing?
You go ahead, Jody.
I've spoken twice, if you want to go ahead and speak.
No, I'll speak after.
All right.
I just want to, first of all, remind people who were around here when Route 5 and Putney was farms, all the Thomas farms. It wasn't very few years that it went from that to what it is today. And they did not plan, and it's a mess today, and they're constantly redoing it, number one. Number two, that I wanted to suggest is, I don't know how closely the Planning Commission worked with Putney, but the exit 4 is quite an issue and really should be coordinated with Putney. And the last time I looked, it wasn't coordinated very well with what they had. They don't have any commercial, and I'm looking at what they did, they don't have any commercial going up Route 5 in their plan. But I may be mistaken on that now, but that's what I had read. But I do wish that would be considered too, is the exit 4, because you know what happens to exits.
Okay. Yes?
I'm Catherine Deonich-Groover. I would like to ask the select board to direct the planning commission to first look at the Route 5 corridor to make, as the very first place that they're going to make the incremental changes that that Sam's referring to, that will be the first thing that they're directed to. It's going to, a lot can happen in the next 5 years. Many lands can be paved over. Once the land is gone, it's gone. Once it's paved over, there's no reverting it back. And that's a stark reality, and I think that would be a request I would have of the select board, is to direct the planning commission to look at that first. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, I'm going to close this public hearing. And can I have a motion to reconvene our select board meeting?
Second.
Okay, so now we can talk a little. Anyone want to respond? So we have,
Mr. Waxman had a question, and I was going to try to answer it in my comment, but I'm not sure I did. Now I've forgotten what
It was about
public land.
Public land. Doesn't that protect agricultural uses?
Productive lands, Barry?
Productive lands, productive lands, excuse me.
Right, so does it protect farmland?
Yeah.
I think that's a question, I mean, it depends what you think of the zoning regulations. Do they protect or not?
Yeah, there are some accessory uses that
Right.
would probably be a problem.
Right, so some
But they're
would say
conditional.
that it's not, right, some would say that it's not enough protection, some would say that it's too restrictive on farmers. But, so I can't really answer your question, it's up to you, whether you think it does or not. But I can say that the Productive Lands District is a brand new district. This is an attempt to reconcile the town plan map, which is called resource, this RSR, they named it resource in the town plan, we decided to call it productive lands. But it's an attempt to reconcile how it's mapped in the town plan into something that we can use in zoning. But in doing so, the planning commission certainly thought that this needs to be looked at again in the next town plan update and the next zoning update. There are some farmlands in town that are not zoned productive lands, and there are some of the productive lands mapped that it would be hard to argue that it's productive farmland. So how it's being used is imperfect, we think, on the planning commission, and we certainly will be looking at it again.
Well, there's a general preference in the state law against spot zoning. So we've got to look at a broader piece of acreage than just somebody's desire to have his 2 acres become commercial, even though it's in a productive or agricultural.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. And then we have to reconcile that with the comments we get from landowners.
I have a question. All the land that is proposed to be rural commercial on the Route 5 corridor, the concerns that have been expressed, how is it zoned now?
Rural commercial.
Yes.
It's been a strip.
It's been a big long strip since 1978.
Okay. So there's really no change in that that's been proposed.
But there should be.
So we reduced the rural
Yeah.
commercial.
Yeah.
Right. We didn't increase it, but we reduced it.
Right.
So, a comment about the Popple Commons being residential. It was proposed that it go from rural commercial to residential, but some of the residents of that area came and tearfully begged to be kept in rural commercial because there are concerns about the abutting gravel pit. And they wanted to have the option of, they felt staying rural commercial gave them more options.
I see.
So, and
Plus there's a barn out back there that abuts on it.
yes, it's been used for.
It's been a car dealership, it's been a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
storage barn.
There was
And it would have looked like spot zoning, I think, was our discussion to just take that one little spot out, so.
the zoning bylaws can be amended. It doesn't have to wait for the town plan to go through again. It can be the planning commission could decide that they want to meet every week to work on something, and then come to the town with an amendment to the bylaw. So it doesn't have to be a 5-year process or a 40-year process. It can be, and so that's. I may be getting ahead of myself, but I'm thinking that this is a process, that it's not the final word. This is a culmination of several years of work on, there was a bylaw committee, there was the planning commission, of course, and input from lots of townspeople. So it doesn't end here, it just keeps going, but it clears up some of the language there was contradictory language. It might make it easier for the DRB. That's been that's something I've heard. So, but let's, any thoughts on what you'd like to do? Any discussion?
Well, I mean, I
Questions?
agree with you, Zeke, that it's a process, that we're sort of confirming a point in the process, and I have heard that the Planning Commission has a whole list of items in their parking lot that they're going to get to, and I think that prioritizing those is a probably the first step they'll take, but it seems like it facilitates their process to approve the revisions at this point.
Other thoughts?
I know they've worked on it for a long time. I know that we've had study group 5, the planning commission has worked diligently, there's been public hearings, and I think when we got done, this is what they submitted, and I think Geraldine made a good point. This is a point we're at I think we should approve where we are now and let them keep doing it. But there clearly isn't anything.
2024 Olympics.
I mean, Barry, you worked on it. It's a thankless position.
I did.
I keep thinking of the prime ag land that Jody talks about, and in that town plan, that was supposed to be a settlement area there. They wanted like West Dummerston Village or Slab Hollow, and so we've significantly changed from that to where we are now, from designated as a settlement area. I don't know. I was on the planning commission for a while, and I know how hard they've worked at it, and
I agree with Geraldine and Steve. This is really a balancing act, and we've heard a lot from folks that are looking to preserve the agricultural lands, and I think we'd all like Dummerston to stay the way it is. I think what we haven't heard, is the other side that I'm sure the Planning Commission heard all about, the jobs, factor. I mean, look around, our kids are leaving. There's not a lot of opportunity. And I think that they have worked very hard to strike a balance, and I would encourage us to adopt the revisions as proposed and have them continue to work on it.
I'll move we adopt the plan as presented, and we can have discussion at that point.
Okay. We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, now we can have more discussion.
I mean, I'd just like to say that I'm really glad to hear the support for agricultural land in Dummerston. And I think that it's not just about scenic, the scenic part of it. I mean, I heard Jody say something about food. And I think, as we look ahead, there's just a huge refocus around regional food sources, and that's only going to increase. And we have there's great value in our land. So I look forward to paying really close attention to that as we move forward.
Well, I think we've gotten as far as we could get with this as we could. I mean, we've made people everybody unhappy to some extent.
I think that's as good as you can do.
I think we've gotten as far, and now I think we should approve this and then keep working. I'd like to have, go forward with something to enhance the possibility of agricultural land, staying agricultural land in Dummerston. I think it's a job producer myself. That's an interest that I have. So I hope that we will approve this revision and keep working. And encourage the Planning Commission to address these issues, and for people in town to maybe step up if they're interested, join the Planning Commission, or let the Planning Commission know what they think.
Can we hear from Goodham? Was he zooming in?
I can't, I tried to kick him back.
I'm just waiting for a pause.
We've had several pregnant pauses, but if you're ready to go.
At this stage, I think that I want to commend the Planning Commission for a very deliberative process. I think there was sufficient time to hear all the opposing points of view and to weigh them as carefully as possible, given the nature of the personal interests involved, both in terms of property rights as well as in the future vision of what Dummerston could be or should be. So I don't have any objection to their process or their manner of reaching this draft. However, it's not in accord with my own personal vision of Dummerston. And so for that reason, I would not support this draft.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we've got a motion, it's been seconded. No more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, there we have it. We have approved these zoning bylaw for us. So thank you to the Planning Commission for all your work. And thank you to everyone who gave us your thoughts. Yes?
I'd just like to, for the people who are here and the people who are watching later, to encourage them to come to the Planning Commission meetings in 2016 when we do start to update the town plan. That's the time to get involved. Then we can really take into account your comments and start at the beginning. So I'm looking forward to that, and I hope we have a great public involvement.
Thank you. Is there any other business to come before this meeting?
Will we adjourn?
No, we're in favor. Aye. Thank you very much.